Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation on Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sara Jane, and I'm delighted to be joined by my co-hosts today, Dianna Leeder. Hi, Dianna.
Hello. Thank
David
you.
McLeod. Hi, David. And our guest, Maysha. My apologies. I am going to actually, our topic, perspective from the front porch of the Milky Way. I'm looking forward to knowing what that means, but I am going to actually hand over to Dianna, whose guest Maysha is, and then we'll take it from there. So Dianna, over to you.
Okay. I've been waiting for this. So, first, let me get out that Maysha is a very dear friend for some time now. She actually participated in 2 of my books. I think I just met her initially because she had a podcast at one time, and we chatted. And of course, the more we chatted, the more we began to like one another and spend more time together. And she came, as I said, she was part of 2 of my books. And it's just kind of been ongoing since then. Now, I wanted to say that because, Maysha isn't just your regular friend here. She is, she can channel like nobody's business. That's what I want people to know. So when she creates something like a new book or a program, or she gets a concept, it's not just a we understanding, it's a larger picture understanding of how we can all support the planet, can support people that are here with us. It's just a huge thing. She just has so much information, and I can't keep up with her most of the time because she's just so incredibly talented and has so much information to share. So I'm very, very proud that she's here today because I know that she's going to explain the whole front porch of the Milky Way concept. We've sat on that porch a few times now. And she'll be able to tell you things that are, they are spiritual concepts, but from someone who considers herself quite practical, they're also understandable and they're clear and they're just very, very interesting. So welcome, Maysha. Very, very happy that you're here. And looking forward to the whole presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me. And it's good to see you again, David, and to finally meet you, Sara Jane. We've emailed back a long time ago. I was supposed to be on, and we had some illnesses in the family. So thank you for your patience with me on that and for letting me be on now. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the kind things you said, Dianna.
So, Maysha, will you share a little about yourself and why this topic, please?
Well, I have a background as an entertainer, as a childhood entertainer. I was in Nashville making records at 14. And from there, I went on to become a long-term care consultant. I fixed nursing homes that were out of compliance, and I was geriatric certified. And then I ended up ill myself with fibromyalgia, which I'd had my whole life, and we really didn't understand what was going on with me. And in the course of things, I ended up with kidney disease, even though I was very careful with the medications I took and impressed doctors with how little I took. I ended up with kidney disease. And so someone said to me, I was always protecting I had a large following on Facebook with Fibro Life, and I was always protecting them from these snake oil peddlers. And one of those snake oil peddlers contacted me and said, well, how's that working out for you? And I said, well, obviously not very well. And so I started using meditation, and this was a quantum healer, and he helped me. The first session, he helped me, but he couldn't tell me how he helped me. And I'm like, okay, this isn't working for me. I have to know how. And my whole life I had been channeling, and I didn't know that's what it was. I thought everybody, I was clairaudient, and I thought everybody's different voices in their head. I thought everybody heard thoughts, and people are like, no, we don't. And it turned out that my youngest son was schizophrenic. And so all these things started coalescing at the same time. And then all of a sudden, archangels started talking to me in the shower. And I'm like, well, you can imagine. And so I was like, oh my God, this explains a lot. So I didn't abandon the medical. I don't think we abandoned anything, but I started trying to explain why this quantum healer was able to help me, and why I was doing so much better, and why meditation was helping. And the explanations were coming like everything always had for me. Yes, I applied myself, and I would look at what other people had to say, etc. But I was just getting the information. When I was a little girl, people would say, how does she know that? Daddy'd say, oh, she reads all the time. Well, and read it, there wasn't anywhere. So I just realized, and I had talked about energy my whole life. I'd said everything was energy. I mean, my dad was an atheist. My mom was a Baptist. That made me, a cactus, something like that. I don't know. But so I just, I was always constantly trying to put it all together. I knew that there was so much more. And required reading in my home was Chariots of the Gods. I mean, Daddy wouldn't let a Bible in the house. Mama had them, but he wouldn't let them there. You can imagine. So Chariots of the Gods, I'm this little girl, and Eric Van Doniken was, what if, what if, 88 questions of what if. Well, I am, just imagine. And so years have passed. I did, once I got to where I could take care of myself again, I started helping people online before there was a Facebook with fibromyalgia. Did that until I switched from the medical, and became more what we are now. And I don't think there's a good title for it other than just living. And so I embraced that wholeheartedly, and just realized that I wasn't into the guru part of it. I've had shows online about it, et cetera, but I believe what I've come to is that we're all going to get this at the pace we get it. And that is how it is meant to be. We're all, it's how many licks of the Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop are we taking? If y'all remember that commercial. And a few months ago, I heard, you don't have to bite the center. You can take the lick slower. That's what space-time is for the story. And I'm like, wow, that feels so good. So it's just been an unfolding, and I've just come to the point that imagine Einstein, Edgar Cayce, Aphrodite, Minnie Pearl, and Jerry Clower sitting on the front porch of the Milky Way talking life. I think that's kind of how I view it all. It's science, it is comedy, it is the everyday, it is the miraculous, it is the wonder, it is the personifications of energy in all the different ways. And we all have our different backstories of what that is. And the wider the perspective is, the more we can see that everyone gets to be exactly who they are, and that is exactly the way it needs to be. And we just need to do this in what I call an upright matrix instead of an inverted one, where everyone is in self-respect, which energy resonates out. And so when that resonates out, that comes back as universal love and unconditional love. And so that's what the front porch of the Milky Way is for, is not to tell people what to think or how to be, but to give them portals to step through, perspectives that one day they read it and it's like, or listen to it or hear it, and it makes them say, oh, that's what that means. And then the next day they realize, hold on, energy has reorganized, and for me today, that means something else entirely differently, because that's what we're doing all the time. Energy is constantly shifting from story to story to story to story. And so that's my whole premise and me in a nutshell.
Bless you. Thank you. I'm actually going to come to each of the others and say, because we all work differently.
Yes.
I don't hear voices. I don't
That's
see.
okay.
I have a major sense of knowing, but there's no two ways about the fact I channel. So, but I think we channel differently and understanding differently. So I'm actually going to come to you first, David. Your thoughts on how things work for you, I suppose, is so that the thought that's going through my head.
Well, as I was listening to you, Maysha, I was noticing that you have an unusual combination of words that you use to describe things. And, well, when I say unusual, I mean to say that these are words that I have heard I've heard these words, of course, but not necessarily in the same order. And so they have a different meaning for me than they might have for you. And this is one of the challenges that I think we have in all personal growth work, trying to find a way to communicate, because, we've all been educated slightly differently. We've all had our different experiences in life. We've learned different concepts at different rates, at different times, and at different places in our lives. And yet we're all kind of exposed to the same thing, even though we may not describe it the same way. Right. And so one of the challenges that I find is I like to share what I know, but at the same time, I want people to be able to understand it. And so I try to get them, well, tell me your perspective on that. And that's one of the things that I love about Sara Jane. She's always asking people for their perspectives, because, we all have the same experience, but we describe it differently and we have different ways of doing it. So I guess I'm not really answering your question, am I, Sara Jane? I'm kind of going around in circles here, which is one of the things that we're all doing, right? We're going around in circles. And the question is, are we going around in the same circle all the time, or are we changing perspective as we go around a loop? And so I like to think of it more as a spiral than a circle, you know? So anyway, that's just a quick perspective on my way of thinking.
Thank you, David. Dianna?
Sorry to interrupt there. I thought you were done. I'm sorry. So I think that's what the front porch does. It is about all those different perspectives and everybody doing it differently and different, having different understanding from different places. I cannot do what Maysha does. I very rarely will hear anything, and yet I have that knowing, like Sara Jane. And when I first heard the front porch of the Milky Way, it was like, what are we talking about here? Is this all galactic stuff? Is it, but it's not. It's that bigger understanding, which I think is really healthy and an amazing thing for us all to be part of. This is me. This is my take. When this is me and this is my take. So yeah, it's an interesting concept that Maysha's created, I think.
I think
I'm just gonna tack onto that. This idea of the front porch of the Milky Way. I mean, I think it's a beautiful metaphor. I really do. But that's what it is. It's a metaphor. And I think we all live in the concept of metaphors. And I mean, somebody did a metaphor for my book, and she was talking about, imagine yourself being in a canoe on a river. You're moving in a particular direction. You're going with the flow, and energies are moving around you and so forth. She said, this is flow. So her metaphor for flow is being in a canoe on a river. We all have metaphors, and I think they're beautiful. So I love the idea of being on the porch of the Milky Way with Einstein, and I can't remember all the other people you mentioned.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, David, what I would say to that is you brought up so many things that epitomize the front porch of the Milky Way. Number one, definition. Words are energy slowed down into tactility, so we can all personify and communicate and put things in perspective and have reference and relevance and have a way to communicate with one another. And so the problem is we give words definition in the recorded mind, and then we think that they have to keep that same definition. And we think that energy keeps the same definition. Well, energy is constantly moving. So energy doesn't stay defined the same way. Now, does that mean that there's not continuity? Absolutely not. Energy has slowed down enough to have continuity of story. What determines that continuity? How do we want to feel? Self-respect is, how does the hue being of light want to feel? That has slowed down to tactility. How do we want to feel? We don't dictate how the story unfolds, because It's massive. It's all of us at one time, everybody's story unfolding. But how we want to feel dictates what part of it we're a part of. And when we all do that up, as I call upright, when we all do that, not looping back through the same things all the time, not thinking that we're driving it from the perspective of what all the new is, when we realize we're not creating that from the tactile point. We're creating that from the wider perspective of what we are. From the porch, we can see that as a tactile hue being of light, we're the whole thing. Just like the all is the all, we are keeping the current within the all. And so that's the purpose of the front porch, is so we can sit back and see that, okay, so energy is eternal. We don't get sick, old, and die. Energy doesn't get sick, old, and die. So from the front porch, I could see that my story has gone on and on and on in this way. And that story over there, love and light to them. It doesn't match me right now, but it doesn't hurt me right now either. It is upright. It is in self-respect, and therefore it is putting out mutual respect, universal love, unconditional love. I don't have to put conditions on it. It can be there. It is perfectly fine. What energy does is reorganizes. Coherence of energy is when two different things stay whole, but they create a new thing. That's what you're talking about doing all the time, David, is we are constantly going forward, and we're constantly reorganizing, and something new is constantly happening. And the fact that we do that and we progress in that way, that takes energy, which holds it doesn't hold everything that is. It holds the potentiality for everything that is. And that potentiality doesn't go away because I choose one thing, Dianna chooses another, you choose another, you choose another. And we get it back based on how we want to feel. That creates the momentum that attracts that in. So we just keep recreating through story. That's why we use metaphors, is because that is just personification of energy. So you kind of epitomize everything I talk about, David. You just use different words, but that's okay, because that's what makes each of us unique, and that's what keeps the story expanding. That's what keeps the all expanding. And what I may say today may circle back to the mailman in some way that's over in Timbuktu, and expand his energetic vocabulary, his beingness, his hue of beingness, and I may never even know about it. Same with you. Or it may be an intimate situation where we know that we directly affect one another. That's the beauty of it. So that's what the front porch is for. It's so you can walk out of just a few rooms that you're aware of, and you can see the expanse of all, and realize that everything is constantly feeding the continued expansion of everything else.
I'm listening to all that's being said here, and a thought keeps nudging me, and I help people to reconnect with their inner child. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, isn't the front porch a brilliant place to be able to sit and reconnect with the child, and to be aware of the whole story? Because especially when you're very young, when things happen, maybe it is a matter of bringing in a parent or somebody who else was involved or there at the time, but inviting them in to get an understanding of that whole story, because a baby cannot have a situation explained to them. What age can you understand situations out of parents' control? So much goes on within what happens to us at any age, but hopefully we get to that point where we can take a step back and say, okay, fine, there's obviously something going on with that somebody, or they have absolutely no control over this. So it's not aimed at me, and I don't have to take the energy on. But as a child, you don't know that. And so you take the energy on of what might feel like abandonment or rejection. Sort of feel like enormous anger, or all sorts of things that can happen to children. They can happen to adults, but hopefully we are in that better place. And And I'm getting the sense of being able to sit. I believe we are all not just spiritual beings, but so many of us have had lifetimes out there in the universe. So being able to sit on that front porch of the Milky Way opens up so much to connect with the soul self, the spirit self, to support us. That's the sense I'm getting from this. And I don't know whether sort of Dianna, you're feeling it, David, you're feeling it, but I am. That's what I'm feeling from this.
Wonderful, because the porch is wide open for you to do that. The porch is wide open for us to take, and I don't believe it's a place for us to tell anyone. I don't believe we can talk apples to oranges. We're all in different frequencies, and that's why sometimes our words, we don't hear the same words because we're in a different frequency. And so the porch isn't some place for you to convince an apple that it's an orange. A porch is some place for you to be able to talk apples and oranges, and for the perspective to be wide enough that you make fruit salad. As I said, the two stay whole and they make something new. And so from the porch, you can see that actually we all came here as children who knew how to be energy. And then we all got it sort of deconditioned out of us. Let's just keep it simple and say it that way. And so that helps us release right there whatever somebody did to us. I certainly understand abuse, and I grew up in it. And I understand also that my dad didn't know it was abuse, and my mom, they didn't know, because of what they grew up in. And so when we look at it from the standpoint of not what was done to me, but just what the energies around me knew, and they were doing the best they could, and that the past doesn't inform the future. The past has, we are where we are because of it, but then we get to stop and we get to reorganize and we get to write the story forward. And so that is what the front porch is for. It's for us to be able, but we have to see that first. And if somebody is convinced that their past is dictating them, then they're an apple and you're an orange, and you have to let them be that. But from the porch, they can start seeing, hold on a second. Everybody had conditioning. Everybody went through, hold on a second. It wasn't about just me. It wasn't aimed at me. It wasn't, and there's a way to flip the script. I call it flipping the script. And so what do I do with that now? And how do I want to feel? And then you let the field reorganize around you. And so that's the purpose of the porch. And you can absolutely use it for that purpose. And never tell somebody, it's not forever for telling somebody what something is. It's for giving somebody the perspective of, well, just imagine, what if this? What if that happened? Just imagine. I'm not even going to tell you why. You just imagine why. You look at the wider picture. You just imagine. And then just imagine how you want to feel now and what that looks like. And let that energy be transmuted, changed to fuel that instead of fueling the old story that you have. And writing a new story. There's all kinds of ways to approach things from the porch where you turn it back over to the individual, because each one of us has to do it in our own way. I hear so much online about divergence, and we're all diverging and never more to see one another. Well, how can you diverge, and not putting anyone down, but how can you diverge the all? The all is the all. Whatever we're putting out there is circling back around. And so we're not diverging from anything. Just because someone is different than I am, I may be taking a different path than they are. But the energy they put out in the field is going to circle back to me one way or the other. So when we flip that up in love and we let people be who they are, and we just show them what if, just imagine, and give them the place to do that, then we allow them to be exactly where they're meant to be at that point in time, where they're ready to be. What we hear so much about fight, flight, and freeze, the vagal nerve, all of these things. I'm not a big proponent of that things are supposed to feel bad, because if things feel badly to the hue being of light, the hue being of light destabilizes, and energy isn't meant to be stable. Things go boom or things implode. We're meant to be stable. So life is meant to feel good. Story is meant to feel good. So sit on the front porch of the Milky Way, decide what feels good to you, and go at that pace. And it becomes a snowball. It starts opening up more and more all the time.
Yeah, I resonate a lot with what you've just been saying. I think one thing that I will respectfully disagree with is this idea of past, present, and future. I think past and future are 100% illusion. The only time that exists is right now. And both the past, my memory of things that have supposedly happened, and my future, my anticipation of other things that may or may not happen, they tend to influence the way I show up in the present.
Yes.
And the thing is, if I can release those and just be present, then I can be sitting in that place of acceptance of what is right now. The other thing that I'll say is, you've mentioned this, and I agree with, I love this. I never even thought about this idea of divergence before, but you're right. I agree with you 100%. We can't possibly be diverging. That's an illusion to the ego mind. That's all it is. The reality is we're all part of the same energy. We're all part of that same continuous ocean of energy that is, as you say, constantly moving. Now, I've always described it as constantly moving. I never thought about it as reorganizing, but those are just two different words that describe the same thing. And so basically, here we are, all that is, and we're here now. That's really what we can say. And so going out on the front porch of the Milky Way gives me a chance to take my attention from within and start looking at the big picture, the outside, whatever I imagine is out there. And really, all that is out there is a reflection of what's in here. Everything comes from within. And my knowledge of this is something that has come to me not through channeling, and I guess I'm more like Dianna and Sara in this way. I just know it. And I didn't need words to come to me. But I've needed to come up with words to help describe it so other people can understand what I'm talking about. And that is my challenge. That's my biggest challenge right now. So anyway, that's just my perspective.
But you are channeling, though, because clairaudience, claircognizance, in any way that we receive energy is channeling, because it's simply the frequency that's dialed in. Channeling is simply receiving the energy, receiving the transmission. So you are channeling. And as far as here and now, I agree with you totally. Unfortunately, if you start the porch with that, some people, they don't get it. And so you have to allow people to come where they're at and explain to them. I use the explanation that what time was it yesterday? What time? Well, it's always now. And where are you? Well, you're always here. And I use that to start guiding people to accept here and now and start letting go and releasing and letting the field reorganize in here and now. And I actually teach that we live each now moment, now. And I have a whole thing I go through with the quarter in the left hand, the quarter in the right hand. And so I agree with everything you just said.
Well, and not only that, but think about this. If I am having a memory of something that happened in the past, well, when is that memory happening?
Yes.
It's happening right now.
Yes.
Exactly. If I'm worrying about something in the future, well, when's the worry happening? It's happening right now. This is the whole point of it. And so I think we're all, well, I won't say we're violently agreeing with one another, but we are definitely in strong resonance. That's what I'll say.
I love it. Yes.
I am agreeing with all this. I love the concept of the front porch. And I love it partially from what I was picking up from Sara when she was talking about, helping people find their inner child, that it feels comfortable. It feels calm. My mom always had a rocking chair on the front porch, and, my dad would come and sit with her. Like, it was beautiful, so that part is really resonant for me. It's also really resonant to understand. And I'm, and I'll be really frank here. I mean, I'm the newbie. I'm the newbie here, in terms of spiritual understanding. I'm definitely the newbie. And Maysha has helped me a lot with that. She has taught me a lot, which I'm extremely grateful for. But the one thing that has been really important that connects to that front porch is that we don't have to be sitting in that. I mean, even if it is a now moment, we can change that now moment to something that serves us, something that feels good. I mean, as Maysha put it, it's all about how we feel. So it's been an eye opener for me. I got to tell you that, just thinking about being stuck somewhere. Wait a second, I'm not stuck. I can picture myself on the porch. I can picture myself walking in the woods. I can picture myself sitting right here and just closing my eyes. I don't have to be stuck. There are ways to look at that, like take this as a now moment, and this is how I want to feel. I don't want to feel that crap anymore. I want to feel this, So, and it sounds so simple, and I'm sure that, people will challenge that in terms of, no, there's this way that has to be dealt with, and this way it has to be dealt with, and that's fine. I mean, everybody is entitled to how they want things to happen. But that simplicity I think, is a real eye opener for, and again, I talked about me being a little on the practical side of this, because that's how I learned. That's how I came into this. But for people who don't know that they can do that, that they can really make a choice. They can make a choice just in that moment. They don't have to change their life, 100%, but they can start with those little moments. So I think we're all on the same page here, but that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Dianna, one thing I want to say to you, and I'm going to say this to everybody, we're all newbies, every single one of us. Because no matter where we are in our life, there's always something out there that we haven't experienced yet. And so we're all newbies. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy the virginity of the upcoming moment.
There we go.
I've heard that word for a while. Sorry.
Well, we are all newbies because every now moment is a whole new quantum equation, but we're also all experts at this because we've been doing it for always. So that's the other thing we need to recognize is the expert. If this isn't something new, it is being aware of it though and consciously driving it and getting cause and effect in the right order. The wider field has all the potentiality in it, and that's the higher level of consciousness, if you will. And it's only higher because it's vibrating faster and it can hold more light. And then when it's slowed down to be tactile, which is us, that's why it's denser. But it's denser on purpose. It's so we can feel it. And so the feelings matter. So many people will argue, well, it's about the mind, it's about the thoughts, et cetera, et cetera. Well, you can walk into a room and not have any thoughts, but you could feel. And we feel our thoughts because everything is vibration. Energy is vibration. We feel energy. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is a barrage of emotion, but at the same time, it is how do you want to feel? What we think dictates how we feel. And so it's kind of like chicken and egg. They're the same thing. It's vibration, it's energy. And so yeah, there's so much there, and I could go on and on, but I'm going to be quiet and let you all go on because I get really excited about it. And the front porch just gives us
never noticed.
Everyone. Yeah. It gives everyone the place. It gives everyone the place for their perspective, and everyone's perspective then broadens the story for everyone else because it broadens the field of potentiality. That's the thing. People will talk about collapsing standing waves. I don't believe we collapse standing waves in the way I understand the scientific meaning of it. But that wave, when it comes back in the next now moment, it has the potentiality to hold everything that it just did because it didn't go anywhere. And everything that has happened in all the now moments that have gone on, the field just expanded so that nothing got collapsed. We just have more to reorganize according to how we want to feel, what we're attracting in, what frequency we're in. So this is so exciting, flipping everything upright and driving it from the tactile wants to feel this way and respects itself and knows it can. And the broader field is experiencing that through us. I mean, that is so exciting to me. That gives us, yes, I have a past if I want to hold on to it, but I can just hold on to the parts that were good and take those with me. And then I can let the rest reorganize into a field that feels better. Because who wants to give up, the good things that they did? We want those to stay a part of our story. So we get to keep space and time is slowed down so we can keep what we want to keep, but we let go of what we want to let go of. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to feel the stuff that doesn't feel good. So I'm very ready, David, to release all those things. And that is, you know, I don't want those reorganizing in my next now. You know, I don't want those to. And I call that waking up on the now side of the bed. Wake up every morning reorganized and live that. You may look around and it may all be the same, but it's not. So don't drag same into it. Open up your eyes and say, I can't wait to see what all is reorganized while I rest it, and be excited about that. And then we have to be open to it, not loop back what through we know, but be open to the new that we have stepped into.
I just came up with a book title, so one of you can grab this and just write it. From newbie to nowbie.
Newbie to nowbie. I love it. Maybe we can just all do it together.
I have to say, Dave, and I love that. That's great. I have to say, though, part of why I talk about that newbie stuff is that, like, a lot of my clients have very little spiritual understanding. I didn't have very much, you know, that many years ago. So I have to. I respect that, and I enjoy working with people like that. But there is that piece, and I think everybody will connect to this. There is that piece that where you separate yourself between I am spiritual or I'm not spiritual, so I can't do things like that because I don't really understand them, right? So I always, one of my favorite things to ask Maysha is, okay, how do we make this practical? You know, how do we make it so that my next door neighbor will understand what this means for them and how they can actually use this as a process? So when you think about something simple as just envision yourself on the front porch of the Milky Way or on your own front porch and think about the now moment, think about the things that you really enjoy and the things that you really love and go from there. That's all you need to do. And even if you do that once a day, that's, you know, wherever you are is fine. Like that's why that stuff comes up. And so, yes, I may just use your title. That's pretty good.
And I'm constantly fussing at you for saying that too. I'm constantly telling you, stop that. You are not. Don't say that about yourself. You are not new to it. As an example of how energy works, when Dianna and I met, and when we had another person that was in the mix at the time, we all kind of pulled and compared our past works. We had all, at different points in time, Dianna started 20 years before. I had started 3 years before. This other person 10 years before. We all three had the same journal for dealing with, I called it energy. The other person called it energy. Dianna, I'm not quite sure what, but we all three had being, experiencing, feeling, I think is what it was. We all three had, we had the exact same thing. And that is because that information is in the field and we were doing the same work. And so we were being given the same way to explain to people and to relate to people. And so, Dianna, you are not a newbie. You just use, as David said, different words, different energy slowed down into tactility, different words. That's it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, David.
It's important to realize we all have to start somewhere. We have a backstory. Mine of absolute, complete and utter insecurity. And I lived in that for a long time. I had no idea who I was. I just went through, I wasn't a sleepwalker because I was a people pleaser, but I just went through the motions of life. And we've all done that. Or the majority have done that. I mean, there are going to be some people who say they haven't, but it's part and parcel of the experiences that we have to get us to where we are today. The trauma of my early childhood, I actually see now as a gift I gave myself. It doesn't stop it being a trauma, but the energy of that, because I now see it as a gift that helped me to now do what I do, I've changed that energy of that with the change of thought and, yes, feeling of how, of that, what my little one went through. And I suppose helping people to connect or reconnect with the inner child is so that the child feels listened to, heard, and seen. Because at the end of the day, every one of us wishes to feel that. We really do. And it took years to get to that point, and that courage to say, no more, that's stopping. And it took, in its own way, another trauma, because the jaw got broken by a dentist, which resulted in 6 months of pain and sleepless nights. Again, I actually see that as a gift. I didn't at the time. And I know that may sound strange to some people, but it helped me to change my life. And that's the exhaustion. I just couldn't keep doing what I was doing. So I think it's part of sort of what we were saying before about stories. Sharing our aspects of our story can support others. I suppose in some ways you're using the front porch of the Milky Way to help, I don't know, to help people to be aware of the past, but not to have the past have a grip on us, because my past so had a grip on me for nearly 40 years. But then but then it's being able to say it doesn't have that hold on me anymore. And I am actually very grateful for it. Mm-hmm. And that gratitude really helps move things forward.
Well, I call gratitude our energetic bandwidth. I call gratitude where we're actually putting our energy. So if we get something new and we're putting gratitude into it, we're giving it energetic bandwidth. And then we wonder why it goes away. Well, you stopped putting gratitude into it. And so when you stop giving something energetic bandwidth, as far as the inner child, what I say about that is the inner child is our highest level of energy coming down into tactility and finding that Goldilocks zone of just right, where we are just tactile enough to allow it to be the highest level of energy it can be and still be in tactility. And so when we can look at life that way, when we can look at it as David has said earlier, all we really do have is the now moment. And I see backstory as energy that we have become aware of to give us the now story so we can write forward. Backstory isn't something we claim and tell everybody else, this is truth. This is how I teach it, in my perspective. Backstory isn't something we claim as truth. If we do that, we freeze the definition of energy, and energy is constantly moving. Backstory is what has gone into the field that has come through for us because we've attracted it in. And now what do we want to do with it? How do I want to feel? And that is where we get the opportunity as the unique hues of light that we are, unique nodes that we are, for that 1 + 1 = 3 that I say, to create that new story that then we put out into the field that will come back to someone to, and I call them personifications of energy. Some get it as archangel stuff. Some get it as numbers and science, and some get it as religion, and some get it as dragons, and I get it as all of them. Some get it as Octurians, some get it as Palladians. We get it the way we get it. Okay, but that doesn't make it somebody else's truth. It made it mine. It came through to me, and it reorganized through me. Now I have the opportunity to let the recorded mind think it's writing this life and loop it back. And well, I got to fix this, and I got to fix that, and or I have the opportunity of, oh, look what I just got. How do I want to feel? Put that out into the field, and then let the next now moment give me something better. And then say, oh, yeah, that's great. More of that, a little less of that, please. And then the next now moment gives me something better. And then each now moment gets better and better. And then we put that out into the field. And that's how we get that critical mass that keeps us upright instead of inverted. And so that's my perspective about all of that. But I certainly resonate with everything you said and understand that there are people that are at different places with it. And that's what portals on the porch are for, is for people to say, I didn't get about half what you said, but I got some of it. And then they go through that, and then they take it and they make it their own, and they talk to other people about it, and it becomes fields of potentiality and portals for other people. So I love that you shared what you did about the inner child stuff, and I hope what I said makes sense too.
David, any thoughts? We've got about 15 minutes left.
Well, I've got lots of thoughts. They just keep coming. What can I say? I think in trying to stay focused on this topic, what I would like to say is, first of all, I don't think there's any such thing as, some people are going to get upset at this and in the recording. There's no such thing as abuse or trauma or any of these other words that we use. There are just events that happen, circumstances that come into being, and situations that occur. Everything else is our judgment. Everything else is how we receive what's coming into us. Yes. This is, when we think of pain, most people think of physical pain. Like you break a leg, it hurts, and you don't like that pain. You don't want it anymore, right? Well, other kinds of pain are possible too. And I think that almost all of the other kinds of pain have to do with resistance to what is. That's my belief. The more I resist what is, the more I'm pushing against it because I want it to take the shape that my mind has made up for it. That's where real pain comes in. The moment I can stop doing that and say, oh, I see what I'm doing. I am resisting this. What happens if I just stop resisting and let it be what it is? 99% of the pain that I was feeling before suddenly just disappears. It kind of goes away. No, maybe not all of it. Maybe there's still some residual stuff that's going to hang around, and that's okay. But when I do that, when I am able to release my resistance to what is and simply accept it for what it is, all of a sudden I begin to see the gifts that are present in that, whatever that situation might be. Now, for many of us, pain is going to be something that we have to work through. We have to do processing on it. We have to do this. We have to do that. We got to do inner child work. We got to do shadow work. We got to do all these things. And the reality is that those are helpful, but they're not required. All that's required is simple acceptance of what is. And that's the hardest part for us to do. That's the hardest thing for us to do, because we want to believe in our minds and the power of our thinking and all the rest of this stuff. So I'm inviting people to just try. Take what is and just say, oh, here you are. There's a storm in my life. Okay. It is what it is right now. Somehow I may have invited it in. Maybe it just happened because somebody else invited it in. I don't know. But it's here now. And if I can simply accept it as it is, then I can pass through it easily. Otherwise, I'm going to be in pain the whole way through. This is just, again, my perspective based on what I have learned in my own life. Take it or leave it, try it out, see how it works for you.
Okay, I agree with you, but just imagine sitting on the porch and seeing that, just imagine. And then just imagine, how do I want this to feel? Because that's what you're saying is it doesn't feel the way I want it to feel. And so how do you want it to feel? And then take it one step further and let it be that. Let it be that. And then we skip that lag time that everybody talks about. I call that, are we there yet? There is no there. There is no there, because every now moment is now. So if we stay in that, am I there yet? We never get there, because the frequency we just put out is, am I there yet? And what you're talking about is the frequencies we receive, the frequencies and what we do with them. And do we stay in those frequencies, or do we allow them to reorganize and become something better? I call it, I live from good to gooder. I live from good to gooder. And when we respect ourselves, we are telling, as the tactile, as the part that is slowed down, because the part that is sending us all of this, the part of ourselves sending us to tactility, can't feel the physicality of it. So how's it feel in physicality? We're the part that has to say. We have to give that feedback. That's what expression, that's what that's for. And so we say, hold on a second. You may have thought that was making lemonade. Dianna and I talked. You may have thought that was making lemonade. I wouldn't quite call that lemonade. We need to add a little of this, a little of that, and I'm the tactile. I'm not the one that does that. You're the part that reorganizes that. I'm just telling you how I want to feel. Now send it to me. And that is letting it be. That is dropping the resistance to what we are, organizing itself in the highest timeline possible. I agree with you totally. So just imagine though, are we there yet? Skip that part. We're there. Because when we skip the are we there yet, then we get to be there and we pick right up in the story. It's kind of like if you have a list of stuff to do. You wake up, you have this list of stuff and you're like, there's nothing on this list I want. And you meditate for a moment and you hear, feel, whatever, get a cup of coffee and you come back. The field can be totally reorganized because you meditated, you cleared the field, whatever it is you do to clear the field, take a breath, whatever. And you went and got the cup of coffee. Now you come back and somebody calls and says, you know that list I gave you, forget that, somebody else did it. The field reorganized. Or the boss comes in and says, I know there's only 2 things on that list you really like doing, do those, I've reassigned the rest. The field reorganized. Or you can't even find the list. What do we do when we can't find the list? We start digging around on the floor for it. Maybe we just stepped into a frequency where the list isn't there. Wake up on the now side of the bed and enjoy it. The list is gone, When the boss comes in, we say, oh, you didn't have to do that. Shut up. Yes, he did. That's what you just ordered. That's what you just dialed in. You just sent to the field. This doesn't feel good to me. What feels good to me is doing things that I really enjoy. What feels good to me is what? Go get a cup of coffee? Okay, I'll go get a cup of coffee. When we do an action that is in the frequency we just dialed in, we allow that field time to organize. It's not, are we there yet? It's we stepped into that field and we're actually living it. We are in it. So just imagine it that way. And I would suggest, Sara Jane, if you'd like to use the porch, and I would love for you to, is to use that kind of with your people who are overcoming trauma, because it really does help. Because I agree with David. It's not that those things didn't happen to us. It is our perception of them. And the more we can widen that perception, the better. But if they can see themselves in the story they want already there. And one version I use is like hearing other people talk about me. Can you believe what just happened for Maysha? Can you believe what she just did? Yes, I did do all that. That is happening for me. You bet, because it's not, am I there yet? If you darn tootin', I'm there yet. I have reorganized the field. My field has reorganized for me. That's what the front porch of the Milky Way is for.
Dianna, any final thoughts?
Well, I'm loving this conversation, first of all. But I want to say too, and this just keeps coming back in for me, that we need to remember that as much of this as we can figure out for ourselves is great, but so much of what causes the blip in past traumas and what we're doing with that and digging deeper and all that kind of stuff is really about how we are conforming to what I call the human sauce, right? So, and that's what we think, many of us, I should say, are thinking that we are here to do, is just to follow the rules, follow the conditioning, do as our parents suggested that we do, or told us, or demanded that we do. I mean, this comes up for me all the time, and I know this is something else for me. But it's just recognizing, I think, that the sauce is trying to take a hold, and we don't have to let that happen. We can look at it from the front porch. We can look at it as just information for acceptance. Okay, this happened. Okay, I'm going to accept that this happened, and then I'm going to move on. We can do that, and everybody does it in a different way, and everybody does it in different timing. But we have that choice. We don't have to be in the sauce 24/7, because we'll never get out then.
Thank God I got out of the sauce. I'm thinking of a different kind of sauce.
You're thinking literally.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did too, David.
David, any final thoughts?
I'm sorry, who, me?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, no, well, I've already said pretty much everything I wanted to say. It's been a real pleasure having this conversation with all of you. Thank you, Maysha, for being here, and thank you for agreeing with me. It gives my ego something more to live for, you know? And Dianna, it's always a pleasure to spend time with you as well. And, you know, Sara, you and I we're together, I don't know how often, but quite frequently. I really enjoy it.
So, thank you. Maysha, any final thoughts you'd like to share? Anything we haven't touched on?
Well, I do want people to understand that the front porch of the Milky Way is not about telling people who to be or what to think. It is a wide open expanse for us to step back and see that story is energy in focus. And sometimes we focused it and held onto it a little too tightly. And the front porch of the Milky Way is just a place to see that and to see not just ourselves reorganizing, but the field around us reorganizing, and then the field of the whole reorganizing as each of us, as the fields around us reorganize. It is meant for that. It's not ever meant to be a place where you will come to and someone will tell you, this is your truth, because your truth is your truth. And that is the beauty of the front porch, is us discovering that and discovering that all those truths belong in the all, and keep getting reorganized again to keep expanding the all. And I've enjoyed, David, I know you don't remember me from years ago, Wellness Universe, but I used to be in the chat on your show, just chatting away and cheering you on. I've always been a fan of what you've had to say. And so thank you today for your perspectives. And Sara Jane, thank you for what you shared today, because I certainly relate in many ways. And Dianna, my dear sweet friend Dianna, thank you for having me. And I love you so much. And I'm so grateful to be who and what I am. And I want all of us to feel that way. I want all of us to have so much self-respect for who and what we are. And because who and what we are is unique. Energy has slowed down for each of us to be unique, to contribute and keep contributing to the whole. So please come to the front porch of the Milky Way. You can give your unique contribution, whether you're an apple, orange, grape, whatever part of the fruit salad you're being. No one's going to try to change you, but you're going to contribute to the fruit salad. And it is a little fruity there. Anybody that believes Jerry Clara, Minnie Pearl, Edgar Cayce, Einstein, and Aphrodite are sitting on a front porch with them in the Milky Way, it can get a little fruity sometimes. But that's the joy of existence, is that it is meant to be all that we can imagine. So thank you all so much.
Beautiful. Thank you.
The word nowhere is now here. And it's here right in the now. So, and that's very much what's been shared with this program. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. It's been a real pleasure. Folks, if anything here has spoken to you, please check out Maysha's website. I've just put that in the chat. And I will, if you're watching this from YouTube, it's in the information below, along with all of ours, sort of websites. Check them out. You can also contact us through our websites. So if you feel that there's something that really resonates, something that can support you, please, it's up to each of us to be proactive in our lives to reach out. We put these programs out, so that you get some information that we hope will support you. And this will touch your life when it is meant to, in the now that is right for you. So, sort of Maysha's website is www.thefrontporch of the Milky Way. Sorry. And also her YouTube channel is up there, and I'll make sure both of those under the video, watching it on YouTube. Okay, next week I'm being joined by David Tyrrell, an old friend of the show. He's been a co-host with me on today's conversation and been on other programs as well. And he's going to be sharing alignment, and sharing the importance of inner practice to returning to your core authenticity and deepest values. And got the feeling that resonates with this to a certain degree. I love sometimes how these programs follow on from each other. So I hope you'll think about joining us for that. In the meantime, folks, take care, be safe, stay well, and thank you to each and every one of you. Namaste, sweet souls. Bye.
Thank you.